Hey, and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So there's been some updates with the new combat enchantments upcoming, and I'd like to go over them real quick, along with how you're going to be able to obtain your combat enchantment as soon as possible in the new module. If you want to be getting that, like say lightning flash from the Mensa Brands store, how will you be able to obtain it? You'll also be able to sell these when you obtain them, so you could make a neat profit by farming them early and then selling them. So just to go over the new ones real quick, we have lightning flash, which is going to be hands down best in slot for damage dealers. Now, it's not going to be so much more best in slot that you have to go out there and get it immediately. No, you'll be able to complete all content with your Poison Thorn and Cursed Burn. If you're not a min-maxer and not planning to go into the new trial, I wouldn't worry about it. Just get it, let's say, when you have maxed out your character, when you've spent resources on getting your enchantments, insignias, companions, mounts, all that. It's not a priority to replace something you already have with something that might give you, let's say, a 2%, 3% damage boost. What the Lightning Flash will do is give you a total of 15% of your statistics, 7.5% accuracy, 7.5% critical strike. Whenever you're in combat and you attack your enemy, you will gain a stack. You will see that just here on your buff bar, and they last for 10 seconds and they'll give you those stats. Now, it does have an additional hit every 10 seconds for 15 extra magnitude. That is irrelevant and deals next to no damage. It is an offense combat enchantment, granting 10% multiplicative damage. Then there is the Refulgent Fortification, which they have changed. Instead of having to heal your target multiple times with a single target heal to gain like stacks, you just have to heal them once and they obtain this benefit: 15% movement speed and 5% damage reduction. Only lasts for 4 seconds, so it's something you will use just before your tank, let's say, takes a big hit. You'll go and, for example, use this, let's say, tab shield if you're a paladin healer on your target, give them that buff just before they would take, let's say, the annihilation ball in your Tower of the Mad Mage trial. In any of the boss fights as well, you could learn the mechanics and learn when your tank's going to take a big hit, give them this single target heal just before they take that hit, and thus you're mitigating that effect. And so it's pretty nice. Every healer should be able to use their single target at will to be able to also trigger this on any target they wish. So if you see somebody's going to take a big hit, go and trigger that on them. Very nicely, they've also done away with the reduction to threat that you generate. I said in the video in the past that threat reduction was kind of pointless, and thank God they changed it. Now it will just increase the damage reduction you have by 10%. So you'll reduce all the damage you take by 10%. Very nice. Healers will really appreciate that running this. Then we have lastly the Mythic Living Hex, which they have changed again as well. Now, instead of it having a chance to put a damage over time effect on your target, it will just immediately hit your target as soon as they hit you. You can see when we go in fight here, attacks us, we immediately deal that Living Hex damage to our enemy after they hit us. Now, that damage is multiplied by threat values. Now, as a paladin tank, our global threat modifier is 9. So we have the damage that it dealt multiplied by 9 from Oath of Protection, and then multiplied by 8 from its increased threat benefit. So that's like multiplied by 72, 7,200%. I made an error in when I tested it the first time. It shouldn't be 75, it should be 72. And you can see like a quick test here we made with the Living Hex, and it works. However, you'll need your enemy to hit you for like 1 million or so for this to be worth it. And most boss fights, that enemy you're attacking won't hit you for like a big hit at the beginning, and thus it becomes kind of irrelevant. If this triggers on such a small hit, it deals no damage, and thus it deals very little increased threat. There are some fights, like say Hallister, he does hit you for like 1 million base damage or higher. You'll then have that reflected hit, making your enemy think you dealt like over 1 million damage to them. But like on a paladin tank, we have powers like Templar's Wrath, which can make our enemy think we've hit for 5 million damage. In an artifact call, this can go higher, but so can your Living Hex, but you can't you can't say when your living hex is going to trigger and deal that damage, and you need it at the start of the fight, so I don't think it's all too useful. But it will help. It will help a little bit, and it'll help more at the beginning of the fight than the previous version of this. So at least they've made these combat enchantments a lot more viable with regards to the Refulgent Fortification and the living hex. Thank God they listened and improved them a bit. So let's move on to how you can obtain these new combat enchantments. The first thing you need to go is to Protector's Enclave. Go up to Sergeant Knox here and pick up the quest Whispers in the Dark. Just follow the quest line, complete your mini lair, and you'll end up in this hub area. Just pick up all the quests the guys want to give you, and then you can go and head to one of these districts. It doesn't matter, you probably can only go to the bottom district to begin with, but once here you can do a bunch of things. You can do your quests in these areas, you can do your heroic encounters, and you can partake in the lockdown event. Now when you check the campaign store, Mensa Baranzin, you can buy these combat enchantments only after you have obtained enough currency. However, before that, you have to get progress on the campaign. Every week you can get a maximum of 100 progress points. And you can see with these combat enchantments, they will require you to have 3rd milestone completed. So you will have to get to 300 points. On day 1, you will be able to buy a pack from the Zen store to get to 200 points. And then you'll be able to go and do your quest to get to 300 points. So on day 1, yes, you will be able to get your new combat enchantment. That's the first requirement to get to that 3rd milestone. Just buy the Zen pack and do your questing. The rest of us will have to wait until the 3rd week, which will be April the 3rd. And then you need the currency. As you can see, when we have a look again, you need 100,000 Astral Diamonds. Very simple. You all know where to get that. Then you need Drow Glyphs of Warding. Now these very simply come from doing your quests. You have like lots of repeatable quests you'll be able to pick up, but just checking those quests, you can see that the small repeatable ones will drop you 12 Drow Glyphs of Warding, and the weekly quests, of which I have none, will give you 60. Then the heroic encounters, the small ones, will give you 10, and the major heroic encounters will give you 20. There's a major that spawns down here and a major that spawns up the top left. So you just have to farm some quests and heroics and you'll get enough of those glyphs. Then you need to get 70 of these Mensa Baranzin mint. You'll get 100 per week just by getting your weekly haul. That is the currency you get from doing the quests to obtain that weekly haul. Again, for the small ones, it's just 5. And then for the weekly quests, it'll be 25. So the maximum mint you obtain per week is 100. So you'll only be able to buy 1 combat enchantment in that first week if you bought the Zen pack. Then you need 150 of these Mensa Baranzin Elite sigils. They are the hardest to obtain. You can do multiple things within the zone. One of them is to kill the mini bosses. There's one right here. When you go and kill them, you can see each one gives you 2 elite sigils. So you'd have to kill 75 mini bosses to get enough. And you can see my map just here of the location of each of the mini bosses within this new zone. So you can go farm them. However, there's probably an easier method, which is the lockdown event. So you may notice this bar under your minimap, or when you open your map just up here, lockdown. Whenever you do quests or activities in this zone, this bar will fill up. So once it fills up, it turns to red and lockdown begins. You can see on the map, you have these red dots. These red dots indicate the Drider House captains. There are 5 of them. You can go and you can beat them up. They have a bunch of nasty mechanics. Ideally have a group with you. And whenever you go and kill those captains, you obtain 6 elite sigils. So you'll be able to get 30 within each event by killing more of those captains. Although you might be in a busy zone and they might be killing all of the captains separately, and thus you might only be able to kill like 1 and obtain the currency. Ideally, everybody groups up and you navigate together to each of the captains, killing them together. You can kill them quite fast when you get multiple people. Once you kill the last one, lockdowns over, the red bar is gone and the purple bar is empty. Then you have to go fill it all up again to get lockdown again. And you'll be able to switch between your zones to then partake in multiple lockdown events. I would assume, I'm not entirely sure if this bar is like adventure zone wide or is it instance wide. I'm not sure on that. Now there's one other thing you can do. When you do get to 300 points of progress on here, you can get a quest line, and when you complete that, you will have this right here, this indicator, which is to do with the hunts. So when you defeat enemies in the zone, this eye will widen and it will turn red. Once it's fully red like now, an assassin will find you. You can kill them fairly easily, at least on a maxed out build, and they'll give you 2 elite sigils. So those are all the ways to get elite sigils, and that will be the hardest part to progress to obtain those combat enchantments. Again, just doing your lockdown event, doing your mini bosses, and killing the assassins that hunt you. And ultimately, you'll be able to quickly enough get the currency you need to get this combat enchantment. So now you've got your combat enchantment, but it's still on green. To get it upgraded, you need a bunch of resources, refinement points, glyphs, and gold, and the easiest way is cool motes. Now, in order to get it to mythic, you need in total 1,000,000 refinement points, you need 50 gold, 18 glyphs of potency, and 4 coal motes, and you'll be able to get this thing upgraded to maximum, which is again mythic. So purple to legendary, and finally mythic, and there you go. Maximum quality, maximum bonus. You'll be able to do that with all the other combat enchantments as well, and you'll be able to sell it. You'll be able to go trade that with other players and make probably a decent amount of profit if you get it on day 1. So again, you will have to buy the Zen pack in order to make progress on the campaign to get to the 300 points. Buy the Zen pack, do your quests, and then do your farming. And that way you'll be able to get this day 1. Now we'll only be able to purchase 1 again per character per week because of the cap of those Menzoberranzan mints, 100 per week. Special thank you again to all of my channel members, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.